She thought stealing from a disabled child had no consequences. What happened next restored my faith in karma. At 42, after watching my cousin steal my son's surgery money, I learned that family loyalty has its limits. She thought a vacation to Rome was more important than my 8-year-old's ability to walk normally. What happened next changed everything I believed about forgiveness and justice. My cousin Rebecca thought she was clever, booking that flight to Rome with a radiant smile, posting those Instagram stories like some conquering hero. But 3 weeks later, when the full weight of her betrayal crashed down on our entire family, that smile vanished faster than the $97,000 she'd stolen from my son's surgery fund. I'm still processing the whirlwind of the last month. Maybe putting these words down will help me understand how someone I trusted with my life could look my disabled child in the eye and choose designer shopping bags over his future. My son Ethan is 8 years old, and he needs corrective surgery for a congenital condition affecting his left leg. It's not life-threatening, but it impacts every single thing he does. The way he struggles to keep up with other kids at the playground, how he pretends not to notice when they run ahead without him, the quiet determination in his eyes when he practices walking in our hallway each night. The orthopedic specialists explained that this surgery could give him the normal childhood he deserves. The ability to run, to play soccer, to simply walk without that distinctive limp that makes other kids stare. For 3.5 years, I've been building that surgery fund. Every overtime shift at the automotive parts warehouse, every weekend I worked instead of taking Ethan to the movies, every holiday when other families went on vacation while we stayed home. Dollar by dollar, paycheck by paycheck, that account grew. $97,000 isn't a fortune to some people. But when you're a single father working warehouse shifts and trying to give your son the best life possible, it represents everything. It represents hope. Ethan and I had a ritual. Every Friday night, we'd log into the bank account together, watching those numbers inch higher. He'd calculate how many more weeks until we reached our goal, chattering excitedly about all the sports he wanted to try after the surgery. Basketball, soccer, maybe even track and field. Those Friday nights were sacred to us, filled with dreams of a future where his disability wouldn't define his limitations. Rebecca had been staying with my sister Margaret temporarily for 4 months after losing her job as a retail manager. She was always around our house, playing video games with Ethan, bringing him small treats from the convenience store, seeming genuinely invested in his well-being. Looking back now, I can see the manipulation for what it was. She kept asking seemingly innocent questions about the surgery timeline, about the payment structure, about which account held the money. I thought she was being supportive, maybe even considering contributing something herself. How naive I was. That Tuesday afternoon, I logged into my banking app during my lunch break, planning to transfer some additional savings into the surgery fund. The account was empty, completely drained, just gone. I called the bank immediately, my hands shaking as I spoke to the fraud department. They confirmed what I was desperately hoping wasn't true. Multiple transfers had been made over the previous 10 days, small amounts each time, probably designed to avoid triggering automatic alerts. Each transfer went to an account I didn't recognize, but the IP address matched my home network. The timing was surgical in its precision, executed during hours when I was at work and Ethan was at school. I tried calling Rebecca, straight to voicemail, texted her. No response. Then I opened Instagram, and my world crumbled completely. The posts started appearing like a slideshow of betrayal. First, Rebecca at the airport. Designer luggage in tow. Caption reading, "Finally living my dreams." Then came the champagne photo on the airplane, the selfie outside the Coliseum, the video tour of her luxury hotel room overlooking the Spanish Steps. Each image was like a physical blow, knowing that every experience she was broadcasting had been purchased with my son's future. Ethan asked me that evening why I looked so upset. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that someone he adored, someone who brought him Pokemon cards and listened to his stories about school, had stolen his chance at a normal childhood? He showed me a small replica of the Coliseum that Rebecca had given him the week before, holding it up with innocent excitement. "Look, Dad. It's just like where cousin Rebecca is visiting now. The same monument she was probably photographing at that very moment with money meant for his surgery." When I finally reached Rebecca through WhatsApp 2 days later, her profile picture showed her at some trendy Roman cafe, an espresso and pastry artfully arranged before her. When I confronted her about the theft, her response revealed a callousness that still takes my breath away. "Oh, come on, Michael. You're being so dramatic about this. It's not like it's emergency surgery or anything. Ethan will be fine. Kids heal fast, and honestly, I really needed this break. Do you have any idea how depressing unemployment is? I'll pay you back eventually, I promise." Eventually. As if my son's childhood could wait for her convenience. As if the years of saving, the sacrifice, the hope we'd built together meant nothing compared to her need for a European vacation. I documented everything obsessively. Screenshots of every Instagram post, timestamps of the money transfers, recordings of our phone conversations. Rebecca seemed to believe that family relationships gave her immunity from consequences. She was about to discover how wrong she was. Margaret initially tried to defend her, explaining that Rebecca was going through a difficult period and surely didn't mean any harm. But when I showed her the bank statements alongside Rebecca's luxury travel posts, the timeline became undeniable. Rebecca had been planning this theft for weeks, using our family Wi-Fi and Margaret's laptop to execute the transfers, making it appear as though they originated from my own home. The surgery had been scheduled for the following month. I spent an agonizing hour on the phone with the hospital, explaining that we needed to postpone indefinitely. Ethan had been marking off days on his calendar, talking constantly about the physical therapy he'd start afterward, the sports he'd finally be able to play. When I told him we had to wait a little longer, his face fell in a way that broke something inside me. "Is it because Cousin Rebecca needed the money more than me?" he asked with 8-year-old logic that cut straight to the heart of the betrayal. I'm not seeking advice about whether to involve the police. That decision was made the moment I saw those Instagram posts. What I can't figure out is how to rebuild my son's trust in family. How to explain that not everyone who claims to love you has your best interests at heart. Rebecca continued posting from Rome as if nothing had happened. Designer boutiques, expensive restaurants, tourist attractions. Each post included location tags, each one essentially a confession showing exactly where my son's surgery money was being spent. She even posted a photo of herself dropping coins into a charity box at the Vatican, with the caption, "Feeling blessed and giving back." The irony was suffocating. Some family members immediately began damage control, suggesting that Rebecca was going through a mental health crisis and deserved our compassion. "She'll pay it back," they insisted. "She's family." As if family status provided some magical exemption from basic human decency. As if my son's disability was somehow less important than Rebecca's temporary financial difficulties. But I'm not backing down. Not this time. Ethan deserves better than eventually. 3 days later, Rebecca posted an Instagram story that would ultimately seal her fate. She was at some rooftop bar overlooking the Tiber River, holding up a glass of wine that probably cost more than most people spend on groceries in a week. The caption read, "Living my absolute best life. Sorry, not sorry." That post would prove to be the final piece of evidence I needed. I screenshot it immediately and forwarded it to the police detective handling my case. The investigation moved quickly once law enforcement became involved. Rebecca's social media presence had created a detailed paper trail of exactly how she'd spent the stolen money. The police were remarkably thorough, documenting each purchase she'd proudly broadcast to her followers. Meanwhile, Rebecca's Roman holiday continued in blissful ignorance. She posted haul videos showing off 3 designer handbags, new shoes, and what she called her European wardrobe upgrade. The total amount she casually mentioned spending would have covered not only Ethan's surgery but his entire rehabilitation program. She tagged every boutique, every restaurant, every luxury experience, essentially building the prosecution's case one Instagram post at a time. Margaret did some investigating of her own and discovered that Rebecca had been telling different stories to different family members. To our aunts, she claimed I'd offered to help fund her fresh start after unemployment. To our cousins, she insisted the money was a loan we'd agreed upon. To her parents, she maintained that I was being generous because families should support each other through hard times. Every story painted her as the victim of circumstances and me as either willing participant or unreasonable family member. Rebecca's parents called me when they finally learned the truth. They offered to help with some of the money to maintain family harmony. Their idea of adequate restitution was $3,000 paid in installments over 8 months, because apparently that constituted fair compensation when their daughter had stolen $97,000 from their disabled grandson. I informed them that I'd prefer to let the court system determine appropriate consequences. The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know about their priorities. Ethan's questions became more pointed as the days passed. He's an intelligent child who notices patterns, and he'd observed that I had quietly removed the surgery countdown calendar from his bedroom wall. I tried explaining that we needed to wait a little longer, but his response haunted me. "Dad, is it because cousin Rebecca needed the money more than me?" 8 years old, and he was already learning harsh lessons about how the world really works. I received a text from Rebecca during her final week in Rome. "Look, I understand you're upset, but you're making this bigger than it needs to be. I'm not stealing. I'm borrowing. Besides, what's the rush? It's not like Ethan is dying or anything. Kids are resilient. Resilient." As if that excused everything. As if my son's physical limitations and the years of saving to address them were somehow less important than her desire for a luxury vacation. Margaret proved invaluable during this period, helping me document Rebecca's social media activity and even creating a spreadsheet tracking every purchase she broadcast online. Evidence, Margaret called it, and she was absolutely right. Rebecca was essentially constructing our legal case one post at a time. The family fractured along predictable lines. Half insisted I should show understanding because Rebecca was going through a phase. The other half expressed private horror but didn't want to become involved in family drama. Only Margaret openly supported my decision to pursue legal action, pointing out to our relatives that a phase is getting a bad haircut or dating a musician, not stealing surgery money from a disabled child. I made some difficult phone calls that week, first to the hospital, officially canceling Ethan's surgery slot and requesting to be placed back on the waiting list. We'd lost our original position, which meant additional months of delay. Then another call to the bank, following up on their fraud investigation. They confirmed that the unauthorized transfers were being traced, but warned that recovery might be complicated given that Rebecca had used our home network and Margaret's devices. Rebecca finally answered one of my calls during her last day in Rome. Her solution was as tone-deaf as everything else she'd done. "Why don't you just start a GoFundMe or something? I'm not really in a position to pay right now." When I reminded her about the designer shopping spree she'd just documented on social media, she actually said, "That's different. I needed those things for my professional image. How else am I supposed to network for a new job?" The real turning point came that evening when Rebecca posted a lengthy Instagram story about toxic family members and learning to put yourself first. She included inspirational quotes about negative energy and releasing people who don't support your growth. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. She had stolen nearly $100,000 from a disabled child and somehow positioned herself as the victim of family toxicity. Meeting with the attorney Margaret had found was illuminating. He reviewed my documentation and confirmed that we had an excellent case, both criminally and civilly. The family was already calling me dramatic for bringing lawyers into family business, but watching Ethan struggle to keep up with his friends at the playground while his cousin posted vacation selfies had clarified my priorities completely. When Rebecca returned from Rome, instead of maintaining a low profile, she decided to host what she called a Roman holiday viewing party to share her travel experiences. She actually had the audacity to invite Ethan and me, texting, "Let's put all this drama behind us." I got Ethan some amazing souvenirs that he'll absolutely love, as if some tourist trinkets could compensate for stealing his surgery fund. Margaret attended Rebecca's party and live-streamed the entire event on her Instagram story. Rebecca was in full performance mode, displaying her Italian vacation photos on her tablet, describing every purchase in detail, clearly intoxicated by her own narrative. Then she played a video that made my blood pressure spike. She was sitting in some Roman cafe, raising her wine glass toward the camera, and said, "Huge shout out to my cousin Michael's savings account for making this incredible adventure possible." Sorry, not sorry. Her friends were laughing in the background as she essentially confessed to theft while thinking it was hilarious. Margaret immediately sent me the video. When Rebecca noticed Margaret recording, she became hysterical, demanding that she delete the footage. "It was just a joke. You're completely ruining the party." The evening devolved into chaos, with Rebecca's parents attempting damage control, while Rebecca screamed about family betrayal and loyalty. But karma was already in motion. Margaret had done some research and discovered that Rebecca had recently secured a position at a local credit union as a financial services coordinator. The job posting specifically emphasized impeccable ethical standards and handling sensitive financial information with absolute integrity. I sent the hiring manager a simple email with links to Rebecca's public social media posts documenting her Roman vacation, along with a video of her joking about using stolen money. No emotional manipulation, no lengthy explanations, just the facts. Here's your future financial services coordinator publicly bragging about stealing $97,000 from a disabled child surgery fund. Rebecca lost the job offer within 3 hours. She appeared at my house that evening, pounding on the door and screaming about how I destroyed her career. "I was going to pay you back with that salary," she kept repeating. Ethan was terrified by the commotion, hiding behind me as I called the police to have her removed from our property. Her parents finally watched the party video and experienced their own revelation. Instead of continuing to defend her behavior, they called me personally to discuss repayment options. Rebecca's response was to lock herself in her childhood bedroom and post Instagram stories about being attacked by toxic family members and how no one understands the mental health struggles of unemployment. The family dinner at our grandparents' house became the final reckoning. Rebecca attempted her usual victim narrative, but this time our grandfather spoke up. He'd been quietly following her social media posts throughout her entire Roman adventure, watching her spend money that was meant for his great-grandson's surgery. "You purchased designer handbags while Ethan can barely walk properly," he said with the kind of quiet authority that silenced the entire room. "Shame on you." Rebecca started crying, but these weren't her usual manipulative tears. For the first time, she seemed genuinely shocked that her behavior had consequences. Nobody was buying her excuses anymore. When she tried one final manipulation, "But I'm family. How could you do this to family?" My response was immediate. "Ethan is family too. You chose luxury goods over his ability to walk normally." The aftermath was swift and decisive. Rebecca's mother took inventory of her recent purchases and began listing items on resale platforms. Her father contacted my attorney to establish a formal repayment plan. Rebecca initially resisted, but she'd lost all family support and had nowhere else to turn. Her parents discovered that the Roman vacation wasn't her only impulsive spending. She'd accumulated significant credit card debt that she'd been hiding, making the stolen surgery money part of a larger pattern of financial irresponsibility. They made her move back home and assumed control of her finances until everything was repaid. Margaret helped coordinate the online sales, and each time Rebecca saw another item being sold, she'd post dramatic social media stories about being persecuted by her own family. Yesterday, she tried claiming that some items were gifts that we had no right to sell. Her mother immediately shut that down. "Gifts purchased with stolen money aren't gifts. The money is slowly being recovered. Not enough for Ethan's surgery yet, but it's measurable progress." Rebecca's father established an automatic bank transfer from their account to mine, ensuring monthly payments regardless of Rebecca's cooperation. When she tried to cancel the arrangement, they informed her that she no longer had access to any family financial accounts. The family dynamics have shifted permanently. Rebecca is no longer invited to gatherings, her cousins have unfollowed her on social media, and even her closest friends are maintaining distance after witnessing her behavior throughout this ordeal. Last night, she posted what might have been a moment of genuine self-reflection. "Sometimes hitting rock bottom makes you realize who you really are." Attached was a screenshot of her deleted Roman vacation posts. But this morning brought another text. "I hope you're satisfied. My entire life is ruined, and it's completely your fault." No acknowledgement of responsibility, no genuine remorse. Just continued victimhood. The court date remains scheduled for next month, but her parents are pressuring her to settle beforehand. Either way, Ethan will get his surgery money back. It's simply a matter of time and legal process. I never expected to write a conclusion to this story, but yesterday's events demand documentation. Karma delivered its final verdict in the most unexpected way possible. It began with Ethan's rescheduled surgery consultation. Rebecca's parents had maintained their monthly repayments faithfully, and we finally had sufficient funds for the surgical down payment. As I sat in the waiting room completing paperwork, My phone erupted with messages from Margaret. Rebecca had appeared at her parents' house in complete hysteria. She'd just been rejected from yet another job opportunity, and her social media history continued haunting her employment prospects. Every time potential employers researched her background, they discovered her Roman vacation post celebrating the use of borrowed money. The internet's memory is permanent and unforgiving. Instead of accepting responsibility for her situation, she stormed into her parents' home demanding they fix her reputation problem. When her mother refused, Rebecca's rage reached dangerous levels. She began grabbing her mother's designer accessories, screaming that if they were going to sell her possessions, she'd sell theirs in retaliation. Her father recorded the entire meltdown, not for humiliation purposes, but because he'd learned to document everything involving Rebecca. In the video, you can hear her screaming, "You chose Michael over me. Your own daughter. I hope you're satisfied with your new favorite child." Her mother's response was devastating in its simplicity. "No, Rebecca. We chose what's right over what's wrong. We failed you by never teaching you the difference." That's when Rebecca's fury turned destructive. She grabbed her mother's phone, attempting to delete the video, but it had already been backed up to cloud storage. In her rage, she picked up a crystal vase, a family heirloom from our great-grandmother, and hurled it against the wall. The neighbors called police after hearing the commotion. When officers arrived, Rebecca attempted to claim her parents were abusing her by selling her belongings. The responding officers recognized her from previous incidents at my house and weren't receptive to her version of events. Her parents didn't press criminal charges, but they implemented something Rebecca considered worse: complete financial and emotional cutoff. No more cell phone payments, no more emergency credit card, no more residence in their home. They told her she needed professional therapeutic help and they'd support that intervention, but nothing else until she demonstrated genuine accountability. Rebecca's response was nuclear. She launched a social media campaign against our entire family, posting exposed stories filled with fabricated accusations. She claimed Margaret had shoplifted in high school, that I was misusing Ethan's surgery funds for gambling, that her parents had abused her throughout childhood. Every allegation was demonstrably false, but she posted them anyway. Nobody believed her stories. Her followers had witnessed her Roman shopping spree, seen her celebrate using borrowed money, and observed her steady psychological deterioration over recent months. The comment sections were brutal. "Isn't this the woman who stole surgery money from her disabled cousin?" Still playing victim after stealing from a child. She attempted deleting negative comments, but they multiplied faster than she could remove them. Finally, she posted a tearful video claiming cyberbullying and announcing a break from social media for mental health reasons. 10 minutes later, she was posting from a backup account, asking if anyone had a spare room available. Nobody responded. The cosmic justice came through Margaret's career advancement. Remember that financial services coordinator position Rebecca lost? The credit union reposted the opening, and Margaret applied. She started work last week. When Rebecca discovered this development, she appeared at Margaret's workplace, causing such a disturbance that security had to escort her off the premises. Now she has a trespassing warning too. Last night, our family gathered for dinner without Rebecca. Her parents brought the final check covering the remaining surgery funds. As we sat together, Rebecca began calling everyone repeatedly, alternating between threats and tearful apologies. Nobody answered their phones. Her final message to me read, "I hope you're satisfied. You've turned everyone against me. I'll never forgive you for this." I didn't respond. I was busy helping Ethan pack his overnight bag for tomorrow's surgery. Rebecca's mother approached me before leaving dinner. She was crying, but not from anger, from gratitude. "Thank you for having the courage to stand up to her. We should have done this years ago." This morning brought an unexpected delivery. A package containing an envelope with $3,200 in cash and a handwritten note. "Dear Michael and Ethan, this is all the money I have remaining. I sold my laptop and some jewelry. I know it's not nearly enough, but it's everything I can manage right now. I'm sorry it's not more. I'm genuinely sorry for everything. I understand sorry isn't sufficient, but it's all I have. Rebecca." I added the money to Ethan's recovery fund. He'll need extensive physical therapy after the surgery, and every contribution helps. As for Rebecca, last I heard she's staying at a youth hostel, applying for positions under a modified name, and finally attending therapy sessions. Her parents are maintaining their boundaries. They'll pay for counseling but provide nothing else until she demonstrates genuine transformation. Ethan's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning. He's nervous but excited. This morning he said something that perfectly captured our journey. "Dad, when I can run normally, I'm going to run so fast that all the bad stuff can't catch us." Run fast, son. You've earned it. Sometimes standing up to family is the most difficult thing you can do, but it's also the most necessary. This will be my final update on this situation. Thank you all for the support throughout this journey. Sometimes karma needs a little push, but justice eventually finds its way.